Everyone, welcome to another episode of Just Listen to Yourself with Kira Davis. I am your host, of course, Kira Davis, and you're listening to me right now on the FCB Radio Network. So proud to be a part of this network. Of course, returning listeners know that this is a podcast where I take a hot button subject or topic in culture or politics, and I take the talking points and draw them out to their logical conclusion. It's an exercise in persuasion. It's an exercise in thought. And it's really an exploration of our arguments, the ones we make every day about different things. Because I truly believe that when people stop and take the time to listen to some of the things they're saying, sometimes our logic changes on those things. So I've done a lot of different subjects on this program. I've done school choice. I'm particularly proud of that episode. Go back and listen to that one. I've made the argument against abortion. I've talked about socialism. But this might seem a little strange to you today, but I feel like, I don't know, it's on my heart. And if I've learned anything in this business, it's that people want to hear what's on your heart. They want to hear from you. And that's when I'm the most successful, when I'm being honest about what I'm thinking about. This week, I'm thinking about marriage. I'm thinking about family. I'm thinking about the nature of commitment. And I've seen a lot of people talking about wanting to wait to get married, wanting to wait for certain things. I live particularly in an area of the nation where people really feel strongly about being financially set up before they have a family. And I'm at the age also where a lot of my friends are getting divorced. A lot of the friends that were married kind of in my era are 10, 15, 20 years down the road now, and they're finding out that they're different people. And it's just overwhelming, really, to see the amount of people around me who are separating after so long together. It's perplexing and sad, but I'm not here to talk about divorce. I'm really not. Today, I want to talk about why you should get married and have a family as soon as possible. Because the prevailing wisdom on this in American society these days seems to be, well, you got to wait. Wait till you're mature. Wait till you're out of college, or wait till you have your first apartment on your own. Or there's a whole list of rules, right? I mean, you can go to BuzzFeed and you can see a listicle about a million things you're supposed to do before you get married, or 10 things you should do before you have kids. I think that those attitudes have been greatly damaging to American society, Western society in general. Our birth rates are dropping. That's not a good thing. We need a certain level of birth rates to keep up our forward momentum. Not only that, but you're birthing future taxpayers. So all that fun stuff you want, some of you out there, you're all like, I want socialized healthcare. Bernie's on it. I want all my student loans forgiven. Those are ridiculous things. I'll make an argument against socialized healthcare coming up here soon enough. But if that's what you want, you need to start having more babies because you need taxpayers to pay for all those entitlements. So I think it's really important that people understand that getting married young and having kids young is a good thing. And more of you should be doing it. You should not buy the line that you're supposed to be having all these experiences before you settle down. But I don't want to start the argument yet because, as you guys know, I like to start at the start. So I want to take some of the most popular talking points against getting married and getting married early. And I want to make my argument to you for why I think that's a bad position and why I think you should really be open to the prospect of marrying young. Okay. And having a family young. Okay. A lot of people say you've got to be together for a certain amount of time because you have to get to know each other first. In fact, you should live together first so that you know that you can be compatible in a cohabitation situation. Oh, I just went Jesse Jackson right there. Cohabitation situation. Okay, sorry. No dad jokes on the podcast, especially not for moms. Okay, so I hear that argument a lot. Get to know each other first, probably live together first. These days in Hollywood, in the movies and TV, you almost never see any couples who are getting married who aren't living together. It's almost assumed that that's the step you take, that's the process. So first of all, the idea of having to know each other for a certain length of time, I don't agree with that idea. I don't. Now, do I think you should, have a crazy night in Vegas and marry this woman that you've known for 2 hours? Absolutely not. But I do believe that when you know, and there's no sense in waiting. Here's the thing. People think that dating is like practice, and it's not. It shouldn't be. That's not what dating is. It's not practice. And anyway, that's so rude. That's so rude to treat people as test subjects is very rude. No, dating should really be a pathway. It really should. You shouldn't be with anyone that you couldn't see yourself marrying in the future. Not that every dating relationship is a marriage relationship or should be on the road to that. But you're wasting your time if you're with people who you can't see a long-term future with in any way. You're wasting your time. You're wasting their time. And they are not a practice subject. They are not a test subject. Do not treat them as such. Let them go and find who is right for them. It's a very selfish attitude. Well, dating is practice for the real thing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's part of the problem with the dating scene these days. Too many people view it as practice instead of viewing it as another step on the road to a committed relationship of some type. Living together is not practice for marriage. Living together is nothing like marriage. I cannot tell you the number of times a person has told me, a friend has told me that, a friend getting married who lives with their boyfriend and has told me, well, it shouldn't be a big deal. We've been living together for 10 years or 5 years or whatever. And we're really good friends. So there shouldn't be any problems here. And there are always problems. And in fact, a lot of those relationships, now that I'm thinking about it, ended in divorce, which isn't completely unusual these days. But people who live together actually have a higher chance of divorcing than people who don't live together first. And I have a theory on that. It's not based in science. I'm not a scientist. I don't know if you know this. This is just my opinion. But I think it's a good one. I think I've put a lot of thought into this. People who live together first have false expectations of what cohabitation after marriage is like. They have false expectations of marriage because living together isn't marriage. And they don't understand that. They think that marriage is just a man and a woman moving in together and signing the piece of paper that makes it official. But marriage is much more than that. It's spiritual. You could call it that. It changes you. It is a life-changing experience. It isn't just a piece of paper. And you should know that based on how hard we fight about it in this country and who gets to be married and who shouldn't be married. So yeah, marriage is a big deal. But what happens is these people have the idea that they've already done the hard work, and they don't understand that marriage changes you, and it isn't just about living together. And what you've been doing isn't even really a committed relationship, because there are still some eggshells you walk on, even subconsciously, with your cohabitating partner, because you know that you don't have the bond of that commitment. Either one of you can walk away painfully. It would be painful. I'm not doubting that. But either one of you could walk away at any moment and kind of take everything with you. And marriage isn't like that. So these people get married and they change. Marriage changes you. It makes you a different person. I don't care how long you've been living together. It makes you a different person. Why do you think it is that these celebrities who've lived together for 17, 20, 25 years one day finally go, let's go get married, and then 2 years later they're divorced? It's because marriage changes you. And what happens is, after people change, they look at each other and they go, oh, well, I guess I just fell out of love. I guess we just fell out of love. And that's not what has happened at all. What has happened is you have matured and you have become a married couple. And so now you need to learn how to relate to each other as a married couple, and not just a couple who is sharing an apartment or a home. And that scares people. So then they go get divorced because they think they fell out of love. And so all that to say, Cohabitation is not practice for marriage. Dating is not practice for marriage. People are not test subjects. Do not treat them as such. And getting to know each other first before marriage, well, you can get to know each other after marriage. There's an interesting, I know I've talked about it on the show before, but there's an interesting study I read once that said the most successful marriages are arranged marriages. Part of that is cultural, the societies in which people still do arranged marriages. They don't look kindly on divorce. It's not an option, which I think is interesting as well. I have my dentist is Indian. She's an Indian immigrant, and she's in an arranged marriage. We chat a lot. She's actually really great, Dr. Raji, love her. And she was telling me that for some reason we were talking about this subject, and she was telling me that it was weird at first, and she did consent to the arrangement. So her traditional parents made the arrangement, but she had the final say. She said, we dated for 2 months, and I told my parents, if I don't think this is going to work out, then I'm not consenting to this marriage. And they were fine with that. So that she had some level of choice in this, but they dated for 2 months. And then she said, okay, let's do this. They weren't in love. But that is why they say that arranged marriages work out, because people go into them with totally different expectations. In America, in Western society, we believe in love matches. So we think that people should fall in love deeply, and then that's why you get married. And that's what I did, and I can't imagine doing it any other way, but I actually don't think that's the superior way to do it. In arranged marriages, the couples go in expecting to grow together, expecting to learn how to love each other. And oh my gosh, can there be any more solid basis for starting a family than two people who came together and understand that love is something that is nurtured and grown and not just butterflies in your tummy? Because that's what they're going to do for their family. They're going to nurture a family. They're going to grow a family. They're going to learn how to operate as a family and as parents down the road. And their marriages are based in the idea that they will learn together. We don't have that concept in Western society. So too many of our young couples go into marriage thinking that the whole point of it is to make each other happy. And that's not the point of marriage. It really isn't. The point of marriage is a lifelong partnership that cultivates an environment in which a family can grow. And the family is the basis for any stable society. Not everybody has kids, and that's not what every family looks like. But that's still what the purpose of marriage is. It is good and right for man and woman to be together in a committed lifelong relationship. It's healthier, it's better for your brain, and it's better for society. Okay, the other argument I hear a lot is, well, we really want to get married, but we're working hard to save money so we can buy a house or buy a car first or have that big wedding. I hate this one is infectious here in Orange County, California. This idea that you're supposed to have this big, perfect wedding and drop tens of thousands of dollars on a wedding. I get it. Everybody wants the fantasy. Well, every little girl, I don't think guys care, but every little girl wants the fantasy, and I get that. And I get that you have a concept of what the future will look like for your family. But children, how do I say this? Children do not make you poor. There are poor people who have lots of kids, and there's different reasons for that. But children in and of themselves don't make you poor. But this is the attitude that I've got to have this big house. I've got to have this car first. We've got to have this big wedding first. We got to be able to afford those things before we start a family or even before we get married. That attitude is not rooted in reality. You don't need those things to start a family. Children don't make you poorer, but they do cost. They do cost you some money. The thing about this argument is that it's made by people who don't have kids yet. So it's so hard to tell somebody what your life is going to be like after children. It's just one of those things where it's like losing a child or losing a parent. You can't know what that's like until you go through it yourself. But if you are one of these people who right now who's telling yourself, I need to save X amount of money before I have a baby, please listen to me. And I promise you that I am being nothing but 100% sincere and honest with you. And I am giving you the benefit of 21 years of marriage and 18 years of child rearing. Let me tell you this. Your kids do not need a big house to be happy, and you won't either. When your child is born, it will freaking rock your world, and it will change everything you know or everything you think you know about love, happiness, provision. Do not deny yourself that unique pleasure in pursuit of a space, in pursuit of an extra bedroom. Get started right away. Because if you live in a place like California, it's going to be a long time before you have enough money saved up to buy a house. I mean, you're looking at, in some places, $1 million for a 2-bedroom. You know, so some places you're going to be saving for quite a while. That's why the fertility industry is booming here, especially in Southern California. It's booming. I hardly know any women these days who don't have fertility issues around here. And that's because most of them are waiting. They're waiting too long for whatever reasons. Some of them just didn't find the partner in time. But the other reason is that they believed this lie that they were supposed to go out and have all this adventure and save this money so they could have this big house with the yard and, you know, room for a dog house so they can have their purebred dog. And that's a lie. You don't need those things to have kids. And in fact, once you have the kids, you'll realize how little you do need those things. Don't wait, because you're robbing yourself. Your world is going to get better with your babies in it. Your world is going to get better with your babies in it. And if all you have is a 1-bedroom, then bring those babies into that 1-bedroom. Here's the wonderful thing about kids and having a family. And this is another reason why I think you should do it young, while you still have the energy, while you have a zest for life. What kids do is they motivate you. They motivate you. So if you have a baby and you bring a baby into that 1-bedroom, what happens is everyone in the family, you, your husband, starts working a little bit harder, starts saving a little bit more, starts being more responsible with their money, starts financial planning. You start thinking ahead because you do want to get out of that 1-bedroom, because you do want your baby to have a great life. But the pursuit of that great life is the joy. Do you understand? It is not getting the great life and then suddenly you just like slide into contentment. That's not how it works. C.S. Lewis has a great, this changed my life when I read this in his books called Surprised by Joy. And it talks about his conversion to a fuller faith. He was raised as a Christian, but it was just the typical sort of stuffy British religion. And I think he left it for a little while. But he came back to the faith and had a real life-changing encounter, he says, with the living God. And he said that he realized at one point that the joy that he was always looking for, he was always wondering why he had this kind of hole in his heart that couldn't be filled. It seemed like he was never happy. He could never have enough money. He could never read enough books. He could never talk to enough people. It just seemed like joy was right around the corner, and every corner he turned, it wasn't there. And what he realized after he started to become successful is that the joy isn't in the having. The joy is in the pursuing. And that's why so many people lose their minds when they get everything they want. So let your joy start. Let it start as soon as possible. Don't wait. Have those kids and pursue those joyful things together. And it will change your world. And also, you don't have all the time in the world. I'm talking to the ladies now. Men, it's a little different than you. Some of y'all got babies, making babies into your 70s. It's a damn shame. Anyways, I'm not going to name any names, but some certain celebrities. Anyway, ladies, I'm going to tell you something that for whatever reasons your doctor won't tell you these days. And your older girlfriends won't tell you because everybody's so afraid of hurting each other's feelings. But I'm on a podcast and I can't see your tears. So I'm going to tell you this. Listen to me really carefully. You have tons and tons of tools available to you to help you stay and look younger, to help keep the wrinkles away, to help keep your body in shape, your breasts from succumbing to gravity. You have all kinds of options to keep yourself looking youthful. But your ovaries age at the same rate no matter what. And you don't have all the time in the world. In fact, you have a very short window. Women are having kids into their 40s these days, but it is not without great effort. A lot of money. These are mostly wealthy women. And a lot of them aren't telling you the things that they had to go through to have these babies. I know Brigitte Nielsen, the Swedish actress, she used to date Sylvester Stallone. She just had a baby at 55. But she didn't tell anyone that she actually had what's called a uterine transplant. She had somebody else's uterus, a healthy uterus, a young uterus, transplanted into her own body. And it acted as a womb in there, which is kind of amazing that can be done. So you can only imagine, right, the cost of that. And a lot of women, they wait and then they go through all this pain and all this cost and they squeeze out one kid. And then that kid is like their everything. And then they raise anxious children because they can't help but be helicopter parents because this is the only child that they could squeeze out at that last minute. Your ovaries age at the same rate. And here is a hard truth. This is science, actually. And you can look this up. You have a greater chance of having multiple children well into your 40s. So you can have children later in life if you start before the age of 28. Your body is literally made to be making babies at an early age. Your peak years for baby making are 21 through 28. So young. Yeah, your ovaries, your uterus, they're made to start producing children at that age, and your body rewards you for it. Nature rewards you for it. So you have a greater chance of having kids later in life if you start earlier in life. If you wait until 28 or after, your chances of conceiving without issue drop dramatically. I think by something like 50%. And then it's 5% per year after that, something like that. So start having your babies early. Not only will they motivate you to be better and do better and to have more, but your body is made to have those kids. And not just that, but you have the energy. You do not want to be having babies into your 40s. Babies are not for middle-aged women and men. Babies are for young people who have the energy. The kind of young person that can't, remember the days when you used to stay up all night, go out and party, or if you're a nerd, to play Dungeons and Dragons or something. And, 6 a.m. you're up and off to class or off to work. And you did it 5 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever. That youthful energy is there for a reason. Harness it. And have all the kids you can. Have all the kids you can. That's the other thing. Don't limit yourself to a small number of children because you have this fantasy of what your life is supposed to look like. I only have 2 kids. My mother-in-law told me I would regret not pushing to have more. As it turned out, my body just couldn't do it. Just wasn't capable of putting my kids together in a tighter time frame. But she was right. I regret not trying, because when you see your kid, you're going to be blown away. It's going to change everything for you. And you're going to want more of that amazing kid. I once read an article from a snobby New York elitist, wealthy white writer. This guy who lives in Manhattan, and he and his wife have one child, one little boy child. And he wrote an article about how people were telling him, you have more. And he said, I don't want any more. He's perfect. Why would I want to ruin our family with another, which is Even that is like, what? Okay. But anyway, he's like, why do I want to ruin that with another baby that I couldn't possibly love as much as this child? What a selfish and oddly narcissistic thing to think. Because the thing that happens when you have more kids, your love doesn't get divided, it multiplies. I know it's hard to imagine, but with each child, you love more, not less. You don't have less to give, you have more. Kids give you more, they bring you more. They don't take away from your life. Here's the other thing that people say. Well, I want to travel first. I want to travel the world and have adventure before I settle down and get married, or before we as a couple settle down and have kids. And to that I say, guys, the adventure doesn't end with marriage. Marriage is not the end of something. Marriage is the beginning of something. Family is not the end of something. It's not the end of your, highfalutin, fancy, foot-free, footloose and fancy life. That's not the end of it. It's the beginning. Your family is the ultimate adventure. But the other thing is that there's nothing more satisfying or more enjoyable than having an adventure with the people you love the most in your life. And you may say to yourself, yeah, Kira, but I want to go to Europe. And if I have 5 kids, I know I'm not going to be able to go to Europe. Maybe that's true, but you'll have other kinds of adventures and you'll find ways to do that. My friend Dwayne Lester is a father of, I think he's up to 8 kids now, 8 or 9. And they live very modestly in Missouri. He makes a lot of their furniture. He's a very handy guy. And what does a guy like that do for family vacation? You would think they probably just stay at home all the time. No, their family takes a trip every year. It's not the kind of trip you might take, but they have so much fun. And they travel to different state parks and they look at different monuments and they camp. And everybody chips in to cook and everybody chips in to pack lunches and pack food so that they're thrifty on the road. And it looks to me whenever they're on the road that they're having the best time together. They're really enjoying each other and they don't care that they can't stay in fancy hotels. They really don't. And I know you think you would. But when you watch the joy in your child's face just by chasing a firefly around the campfire one night, it'll change your mind about everything. Be open to adventure. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't put your family in a box. The adventure doesn't stop when you're married. The adventure starts when you're married. Here's the other thing. Here's the other reason why I believe that so much. Because marriage matures you, and so do your kids. You can better enjoy and better appreciate what you have when you have your family. I was on the Babylon Bee podcast recently, and my friend Ethan, who is the creative director over there, was saying that he's pretty young. He's in his 30s. And he was saying, before I got married, I would think like, I do need this amount of money. I need this kind of house. And when I got married and had kids, you realize, none of it matters. You don't even long for those things. You don't even pine for those things. They aren't even on your mind. All you can think about is how much you love this person. The adventure doesn't stop. You mature. Think about all the great stuff you got as a kid, and you look back as an adult now and you say, I did not appreciate what I had. I did not appreciate not having to pay bills. I did not appreciate the fridge full of food. I did not appreciate that great Christmas gift my mom got me one year. How many of us have said that? We've all said that. But that's what happens when you mature. You realize your folly. You realize that you had it great once and and that life isn't easy. And that's what kids will do for you too. You'll be matured by the children. You'll be matured by your marriage. And you won't pine for those things. You won't look back. You think that way because you've matured. And so what it does is it helps you better appreciate what you have in that moment, right? So when you do get that new car, that new toy you wanted, when you do get the light bill paid, you feel good about it because you remember the days when you were ungrateful. And that's what kids will do for you. They'll remind you how good you have it. They'll mature you into loving where you are. You won't be pining for all of that stuff that you think you left behind. You really won't. You might have some moments where you're like, oh, damn, I wish I could have just a second apiece, or I miss the days when I could drive my 2-seater sports car. But besides that, really, what they'll do is they'll help you appreciate what you have. They'll help you live in the moment. Your adventure begins with your family. It does not end with your family. And let me tell you, you may think that jetting off to Rome with your partner, just the two of you right now, is amazing. But when you have a family and you take a 3-day road trip to the shore, you won't be thinking of Rome. It will pale in comparison to what you're experiencing with your family. So doing all of the fun stuff is silly. Don't use that as an excuse. The fun stuff will be there. And by the way, if you start young enough, you'll have enough good, energetic years on the other end to go have those fun experiences, which, by the way, you'll appreciate more because you're older and you earned it. Don't use that as an excuse. I don't want to be tied down. That is another argument we hear from people who are reluctant to get married, typically from a man. And this is where the very unique nature of male and female relationships come in. And I'm about to say some things that are going to sound controversial to those of you who either don't have a spiritual background, particularly in Christianity, or who have sold yourselves out to the PC, cancel culture, sensitive, whiny baby set that we're all dealing with these days. If you don't like what I'm saying, I would just encourage you to hear me out. Don't shut off this podcast. Just let me try to explain myself. Let me try to persuade you why I think I'm right. More advice from my beloved mother-in-law, which I use a lot on this podcast. Men are hunters. They need to conquer. So women who are giving it up too easy, or women who are pursuing them for marriage, are actually a turnoff. That's not what's going to get you the commitment. Begging him to marry you, trying to do everything perfectly so that he'll see that he needs you, or putting out on the first date or in the first week or whatever, because you're just trying to get some kind of commitment out of him. It's not going to work, because a man needs to conquer, and men need to be tamed. I know that sounds controversial to say in 2019, but if you really just stop, calm yourself for a second and think about all of history, think about every great man that you know and admire through history. Most of them are married. Most of them have a story about how they met a woman who changed his life and made him want to be a better man. Those men aren't great without those women. But see, great men are wild men, and they need us to tame them. They need us to bring them into marriage and bring them under the headship of one God, one creator, so that they can really fulfill their potential as great hunters and conquerors, however that may look in 2019. Does that mean women trick men into marriage? No, it's a dance. It's a dance. There's nothing spoken out loud, but it is the traditional dance between male and female. And I love it. I'm fascinated by it. And I think God has created it perfectly for us. But men and women are different, and men need women to tame them. They don't know it. We have to show them. We show them by being worthy of being pursued. And a man needs to conquer. And when he sees something he wants to conquer, he's going to pursue that. And in the pursuit, he doesn't realize that he's being tamed. And then he says, I can't live without you. And the only way I can have you, I know, because you are a good woman who respects herself, the only way I can have you is to marry you. I guess it's kind of like a trick. But what happens is the man and woman get married, and then the man realizes, yes, this is what was good for me, and this is what is making me a better man. Your family, your marriage, they will make you into a better person. I know what I've just described, it sounds like a woman tricking a man into getting tied down, but that's not. I'm really just talking about the basics of human nature and male nature, the difference between male nature and female nature, and why when those two come together in a great and wonderful union that it is so powerful. It will change everything about your life. It will change how people see you. It will change how you see other people. You're not tied down when you're married. You have a different level of commitment. You have new commitments. My husband had a real hard time adjusting to the idea when we first got married that he needed to come home after work. And if he was going to stay out and have drinks with his buddies, he needed to call. Ooh, we struggled with that for many years. And had to have a few people come to our house and break up arguments. That's happened before. I'm married 21 years, folks. So yeah, all that stuff, that even in a loving relationship, that stuff goes on. So don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it. Your ring is the commitment that you're going to work through those scary moments. And we did. But my point is that it took him a while to adjust to the idea that he is no longer just responsible for himself. I know some people will feel like that is being tied down, but it's not. It's maturing. It's saying, I'm not the most important person in this world anymore. That's a gift, y'all. That is a gift. That is an attitude that will bring you success and prosperity in your future. To know that you are not the most important person in the world, and nothing does that to you more than family. Nothing gives you that sense of being a servant to those around you more than having a family. So you're not tied down. You're freed, really, because marriage is the fulfillment of the roles of men and women. It's a fulfillment. I have had a very eclectic life. I've lived all over Canada and the United States. I've been on my own since I was a teenager. I've had all kinds of adventure and all kinds of jobs. I've met all kinds of people. I'm educated. I can be cosmopolitan. I can be rural. I would have told you at 22 years old, I would have told you that I am a mature woman and I don't need any kind of marriage relationship to feel fulfilled. And I am perfectly and fully who I am in this moment because I've lived so much life in my short time. I'm very mature for my age. I did not really become a woman until I got married. And I would say even then, being a mother was really the ultimate expression of womanhood to me. It really was what matured me into being a woman. And it wasn't until I got married that I felt the full power of my femininity, of being a woman and what that means. A woman has so much power in her marriage. That's a thing that these feminists never tell you. They act like marriage is prison. And it's just, a lot of feminists will tell you that marriage is just a construct so men can legally rape you. I've heard that before. And that's a really sad perspective. That tells a lot about the person expressing that perspective, really, to my mind. But that's not what it is. Women have a lot of power in marriage. And I did not understand how much power women have over men until I got married. And now I have a deeper understanding of it, and it matured me. Your marriage will make you a whole woman. It will make you a whole man. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to look to that person to fulfill you, and you shouldn't. That's a dangerous way to look at marriage. That's not what marriage is. And a lot of couples, I think probably every couple at one point or another gets wrapped up in that. And that's when counseling comes in. You should be surrounding yourself with other mature married couples who have been at it longer than you, so they can help guide you through. People that you trust. Don't just trust anybody, but people that you trust. We had the church. And every church we've been in has had very supportive marriage ministries. And then we've been in professional counseling off and on throughout our whole marriage. You know, when things get rough, we go and we work it out. And sometimes even when things are good, we go just to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. Anyway, yeah, marriage is not going to tie you down. And that's not an acceptable excuse. Get married. Marriage is going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better person. Marriage exposes your weaknesses. Kids especially expose your weaknesses because you get real raw, especially when the kids are little. All of a sudden, all the typical emotional defenses that you've used your whole life, they're not available to you anymore. Not with your children. They don't understand. And they're pretty honest about how they feel about you. And you love them so much, you suddenly start to think about all of the things you wish you had in your youth. And all of the ways that you have failed in your life, and you realize, I don't want to be that failure for my kids. But kids and spouses will test your patience, and they will reveal your weak points. They're a mirror. Your family is a mirror. Your spouse in particular is your mirror, and then your children is another portion of that mirror, but they're there to reflect who we are. And sometimes married people get divorced or separated or live with great tension because they don't like what they're seeing in the mirror and they don't know how to fix that. So it can be painful, but it's a really good thing because it matures you. It helps you grow. You can see your weaknesses and you can work on them. But your spouse will show you who you are. Especially when times get tough, when times get lean. And I don't mean financially lean. I mean when the love gets lean, because that happens. It happens, right? If you love chocolate cake, but you have chocolate cake every single day, you're going to get sick of chocolate cake soon. Marriage is the same way. I was so in love with my husband, just like you were in love with your boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse. I mean, really, I couldn't wait to see him and had all the butterflies. But, you get married and then you see this person every day and you wash their dirty underwear and you listen to them snore. And I mean, you're together all the time. Yeah. People tire of each other and it feels like a chore sometimes to love that person. And so that's what I mean by lean times. But you can only get stronger if you can know where you're weaker. And marriage and family will do that for you. And that's why it's a stereotype for a reason. The aging bachelor who never grew up. They make movies about him all the time. I mean, like every Adam Sandler movie, right, is about some guy who just can't grow up. That's because that's what never having a family and never having children does. It keeps you immature in a certain way. It does. I mean, there is, and I don't mean that to be offensive because I know that I have friends who are listening to this podcast right now who aren't married and don't have kids for whatever reason. And basically I'm telling them that they're immature, and I don't mean you're immature, but I do mean that there is a certain type of maturity that you cannot possibly have without having a family and a spouse, so that's not your fault. But that's just the way it is because there is a certain mysterious maturing that happens when you have committed yourself to a marriage and to a family. And finally, let's talk about commitment. A lot of people say, I don't know. I don't think I could commit to having sex with one person for the rest of my life. I don't think that I could commit to loving one person for the rest of my life. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It is tough. I think saying I could never do it is an excuse. You just mean you don't want to do it. But there's value in committing to something because when you commit to see things through, you get to see the rewards. For people who have quit too early, they have missed out on so much. I'll use my in-laws as an example. My father, Pastor Vic, my father-in-law, Pastor Vic, he and his wife, this was in the 50s, I guess, but they got married really young. I mean, they were both from rural Michigan. They were young. They were from very, they had challenging families. And, they kind of wanted to get out on their own as soon as possible. So my mother-in-law was 16 and my father-in-law was 19 when they got married. And they had no examples, really. They didn't have parents. I think my father-in-law's mother was alive, but she had never married, even though she'd had 5 kids or 7 kids. And then my mother-in-law's parents had passed and they just didn't have much of an example, and they really did their best. They did. But eventually my father-in-law, who was living with a lot of anger and probably a lot of confusion at that age, eventually he decided he didn't want to be married anymore. He was angry with my mother-in-law for a personal reason, which I'll keep that to myself. They're pretty open about their marriage, but I'll just keep that to myself for now. But he was angry with her and accusations flew, and he decided he didn't need this anymore. And he took off. I believe she was pregnant with their first child at the time. And he sent her back. She went back to Gary to stay with they were living in Iowa. He was playing football there. And she went back to Gary to stay with her sister and have the baby. And he got an apartment and got a job and just started living his life as a single man. And he tells a story about walking into a Walgreens to get something one day. And you know how they have the intercom, the loudspeaker, they'll say, oh, there's a call on line 1 or whatever. He was standing in the aisle, and he will tell you to this day that as clear as someone was standing next to him, as clear as day. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a thought. He heard the loudspeaker come on. He says he remembers it because at the time they would do a bing, like a bing, 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 to let you know that the announcement was coming on. He heard the bings, and then he heard the announcer say, Vic Davis, you are just like your father. Woo! He turned around, walked out of that Walgreens, and went back to his wife that very day. And it wasn't an easy thing after that. They struggled. I mean, they still were on the precipice for a long time. And it was years, and I mean years, for them to dig out of that hole. It's one of the reasons why they're so committed to marriage ministry to this day, because they understand the struggles that can come. And it can be a years-long process. My whole point in the story is that I was talking to him about this one day. It was Thanksgiving, and he was looking at all his grandkids and this wonderful, close-knit family that he and his wife had cultivated. And he said, I would have missed all this if I had left. I would have missed all this. We don't know what we're giving up when we quit too soon. You're not a good person to say, oh, I just don't think I could commit. That's actually not a noble thing. Not necessarily for what it means for other people, but for what you're denying yourself. You have no idea the joy and the satisfaction and the contentment that you are denying yourself by quitting too early. Some of y'all quit before you even start. Oh, I can never make that commitment. That's quitting before you start. Some of you all quit way too soon after you've married. Falling out of love is not a valid reason to divorce. I know that's controversial these days. I hear this a lot. And I already know. I can tell I'm already offending people listening to this podcast. But hear me out. I hear this a lot. Oh, we're best friends. We are best friends. We really are. But we just couldn't make the marriage work. What do you think marriage is? If you're best friends, then you've got a great foundation right there. I think people believe the lie that they're supposed to be happy all the time, that marriage is the thing that's supposed to make them happy. And I can already hear you. You're saying, yeah, I get it, but Kira, but what if you come to hate each other? Guess what? You can get through that. You can. You can fall out of love with your spouse, and you can fall back in love with them. That is a thing that can happen 100%. Absolutely. It takes work. Love is the commitment. When you say, I just can't be committed right now, what you're saying is, I don't have the capacity to love, because being in love is the lie. It's the lie that gets you to the part where you get to tell the truth. And the truth is that love is a commitment. It's a choice. It's not love if you haven't chosen it. I'm going to take it to church for just a second here. A lot of people say, if God is real, why doesn't he just come down and make a big spectacle and show us all? But then you haven't made a choice in the matter. If God is real, why doesn't he get rid of all evil? Well, in order to do that, he needs to make us robots. And then we haven't been able to choose him. And if you don't choose, is it love? No. Commitment is you waking up every single day and looking at your partner and saying, today I choose you. Even though your breath stinks, and I am so sick of you never changing the toilet paper roll, and you don't put in enough time with the kids, and you don't show me enough affection. Yes, people, you can still carry hurt and pain and still remain committed in a marriage. And here's the good news. You can get past it to something better. And that can happen, and that will happen over and over and over again in your marriage if you're doing it right. It's not a valid excuse to say you can't commit. What you're saying is you can't love. You're saying you're not worthy of love, and you're saying other people are not worthy of your love. So I don't buy that either. Get married now. Have kids now. Don't wait. And I know it's not as easy as you walking out the front door and, throwing a rock and hitting someone to marry. And I live in an area of the country where that's especially true. I mean, it's very difficult to date in Southern California, as I am seeing these days. Everyone's so self-absorbed. We've got the entertainment industry here. It creates narcissistic monsters in a lot of our young men. So it's difficult to date. But we put off marriage in all kinds of ways. I'm going to say some other things that are going to maybe offend people. You might be saying, okay, I get it, but I'm 8 years out from this doctorate or whatever. I can't even begin to think about dating until I get this doctorate. Well, in your mind, you've made the doctorate the priority. You haven't made marriage and family the priority, and that's the vibe you're going to put out. And I'm not saying don't go for the doctorate, but what I'm saying is you release a certain energy, like pheromones. It's science. I'm not being spiritual or weird here. It's just science. You release a certain energy, and that's who you draw. And if you release the energy that says, I cannot be committed for at least the next 6 years, then you will draw people who cannot be committed to you. I used to make fun of the girls at my small little Midwestern Christian college who came for their MRS degree. Their Mrs. degree. And they were just there to find a husband. And I used to think, how silly and shallow and sad. But now that I'm older, I think, well, maybe it wasn't that shallow. It was a plan. And they knew what they wanted. They wanted to be wives. They wanted to have a family. And every one of those women found somebody. Every one of them. And a lot of the ladies I know who were looking at them and looking down their noses at them are now in their 40s struggling to find a partner or struggling to have a family. There's something to be said for setting your mind on it. If you want to be married, and if you want to do that early, set your mind to it. That doesn't mean stop living your life. As a matter of fact, you must live your life. You're not going to meet people unless you're out there living your life. A lot of people meet their spouses at school or work. So keep doing those things, but don't tell yourself that you've got a certain timeline. That clock is ticking and you don't even hear it ticking, and you won't hear it until it's too late. Set your mind to marriage early, and don't be afraid. A lot of people will tell you if you're 21, 22, you're too young. You'll need to surround yourself with good people who can help you through the tough times. But 21, 22, 23, that is not too young to be married. I think that's the perfect age to be married. And you'll save yourself a lot of grief in your life if you can find a partner who values marriage as much as you do and who has agreed to exalt the commitment in the same way you do. Now, if you don't have two partners on the same page, it's not going to work. I get that. But choose your partner wisely and then have your adventure. There's nothing better out there. I promise you, there's nothing better. All those things you're thinking that are out there, they don't exist. There is nothing better out there for you. This person who's going to be by your side for the rest of your life. And yes, oh my gosh, the person you're going to have sex with for the rest of your life or not have sex with for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's part of it. It's an adventure though, and it is well worth the cost. Do not put off marriage and children. I beg you. Do it as soon as you can, make your mind and your heart ready, and then do it in a community and an environment that will be supportive of you as you go through your growing pains, because you will. But marriage and family are for the young. Please do not put it off, and please change your energy. If you want to be married, then change your energy. I've gone on long enough. That's my argument for getting married and having kids young and right away. I think you should do it. Don't wait. I think I've made my argument. What do you think about that? You can reach me on Twitter at realkiradavis, or if you just type in at realkiradavis into Facebook, it'll actually take you to my Facebook fan page. Leave comments on the podcast comment section, or you can email me at kiradavis422. That's the numbers 4, 2, and 2. I need to change it. I don't know why. When I first got email, I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. When I first got email, I was like, oh, this is just a trend. It's going to go away. So I Kira Davis was taken, and I just used some BS number that I thought up. And then now I'm stuck with it. So someday I'll change it soon. But that's what it is. kiradavis422 at gmail. Email me and let me know what you think. Were you offended by some of the things I said? Make your argument against them. I'd love to hear. If you lay out a great argument, I might use it for a response episode. I love a good argument, even if I don't feel like I'm convinced by it. I want to thank our home at FCB Radio Network. Don't forget to check out our radio station at TuneIn Radio. It's the FCB Network radio station at TuneIn Radio. And we have tons of awesome shows on there. We have so much fun stuff. My friend Amelia is actually on this network, and she's got a fun podcast called Growing Patriots. And she does historical kids podcasting. So she talks a lot about American history. She interviews kids on American history. It's really cute. It's really good, cute podcast. Check that out. And we've got other podcasts on there that are, we've got lifestyle podcasts. We've got celebrity gossip podcasts. We've got podcasts about, getting motivated to change yourself and change your life. So many different perspectives on this network. It's a joy to be here. Until next time, folks, remember, every once in a while, just stop and listen to yourself. Bye.